Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, one of the things that I've really not talked about all that much, and I think it's really important, is the rod action of the rod that we're using, and it's really struck home to me this fall, and that's why I wanted to pass it on to you. You know, we take these fishing rods I think we take them for granted, and the experts don't, but most of us do, and I'm included in most of us. And so I've got rods that I use for almost every type of fishing. But what I've noticed lately in the fall, if I do catch bass in our tributaries, and I say that word a lot, but in our small streams, the bass actually tend to be bigger that I catch. Not because they've grown more, but it seems like the bigger fish are the ones left in the areas that I fish. The smaller ones have gone off someplace else. And I'm losing a lot more fish. And I've tried to figure out, okay, why am I losing them? Because I've hooked some dandy bass, and I'm using the same lures that I use all summer long. But the bass and smallmouths are notorious for getting off the hook. But these fish tend to, they fight for a while, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And I bring the lure back, and I'm thinking, okay, am I not setting the hook properly? And what's going to help me set it properly? And I think a lot of times we underestimate the value of the right type of tip action. Now, first of all, if we're using a flexible tip, a soft tip, whatever you want to call it, and if we're using heavier lures now because we have to fish deeper or the wind is more of a factor, those heavy lures can't be fished as effectively with a light tip. So we want to use a heavier tip for that. But then if the tip is too heavy, you'll put too much pressure on the fish when you go to hook it, and it'll actually pull the hook out. Now, I know this might sound like a lot of gobbledygook variables, but it isn't. And I've tried to find the perfect rod to do this. I've had to step up. I can't use my ultralights the same in the fall because they just don't have the right action to set the hook on the little bit bigger lures and the little bit bigger fish that I'm fishing for. So I'm still trying to strike that balance. Now, another thing for me in fishing is I don't like to use heavy rods and heavy tackle. It's not the grace, the poetry of fishing that appeals so much to me. You know, I'm not as concerned with the size of the fish that I catch, but I still want to catch them. And so I enjoy using light tackle. It just makes casting hundreds and hundreds of casts a day a little bit easier, a little bit more enjoyable. So the rod action really does make a difference. And I can't really tell you what the best, the experts will tell you, okay, if you're fishing fast with any kind of bait, if it's already moving fast, you don't need as stiff a tip of the rod to set the hook because the motion of the lure is already at 2 miles an hour, we'll say, or whatever, and it kind of hooks itself. But if you're using finesse type of tackle, like a drop shot bait with a single hook, or using tubes and the things that I use where you cast it out and it's pretty well motionless, like most live creatures on the bottom would be, then it takes more of a thrust to set the hook. It's always finding that fine balance. But I think it's important. You don't need expensive tackle. I'm a firm believer. If you enjoy using the best, then that's fine. But you don't need it to catch fish. But you do need the right action, the right weight of line, the right gear ratio. These are things that can be built into cheaper tackle, and you can still have just as much fun and probably catch just as many fish as long as the action is the proper action for the type of fishing that you're doing. So it's something you should look at because, I've fished my whole life and I still find new things to look at, and that's one of them. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.